A Woman's Reaction to No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert A. Glover. Okay, so we're starting on Chapter 4, Make Your Needs a Priority. And one of the things that I noticed after reading through the comments on my last video, I should probably go through and make it really clear to you guys that this is Robert Glover's definition of a nice guy. It's not necessarily the only definition of a nice guy out there, because I had a few people who were like, they'd get angry at me. They were like, I'm a nice guy and I don't do these things and I'm not struggling with anxiety and you don't understand what selflessness is. And, it got a little bit heated. And the thing is, this is a specific type of person with a specific type of behaviors that Glover is talking about in this book. And he's talking about how these behaviors, even though they're couched in this idea of being nice and being, amiable to other people, it sounds really good, and it's how a nice guy kind of sells themselves on behaving this way, but it doesn't work. It doesn't make them any more likely to meet their long-term goals, and it actually drives away other people or makes other people uncomfortable, which generally leads these nice guys to deeper and deeper frustration, which is actually what we're going to be talking about in this chapter a bit. It's not a healthy set of behaviors. It's good to be social with other people. It's good to get along well with other people. It's good to have the capacity to work together with other people. Even if you're a very disagreeable person, you have to have some degree of capacity to interact with other people in a mutually productive way. That's just how society is built. And even people who generally are very disagreeable, they still have a tendency to be able to work, reasonably well with others in certain circumstances, more or less. I tend to be kind of disagreeable, so I don't always work well with other people, but I still get along with my husband. I still get along with other people that I interact with, because you kind of have to function in society, and people who fail to do so, they tend to be people who are generally thrown into the category of sociopaths and other things like that, where it's like, oh, there's something wrong with you because you can't interact with the rest of society in a favorable way. So it is good to be able to interact with other people in a mutually beneficial way. It is good to be well behaved. And I suppose you could use the word nice, although I've never been a fan of the word nice. It's okay to be nice. The thing is, when Dr. Glover here is talking about nice guys, he's talking about a list of behaviors and a list of worldviews that are very unhealthy. And it's not just being nice that's the problem. It's that they do things that are not so nice, but they tell themselves that they're being nice. They couch their worldview in the idea that they're being nice. And they fail to understand that their niceness isn't nearly as nice as they think it is, and they're not actually approaching their own flaws and failings in an honest manner. That's what we're talking about here. So if you're a guy who thinks you're a nice guy or whatever, I really recommend you actually read the book and figure out whether or not you're the kind of nice guy that Glover is describing, or whether you're just an amiable person. Because you can be healthy, well-adapted, and behave nicely, and not really fit the profile that's being described in this book. You can also be, a very nice person and think that you're a very nice person and be convinced that you're a very nice person and read this book and go, you know what? I've done some of these things, and now that I think of it, they're not so nice. So let's talk about that a bit. Chapter 4 is Make Your Needs a Priority, which is important. People need to do that, and it's difficult for nice guys to really... It's difficult for them to do that. Frequently a lot of nice guys will look at making their own needs a priority and say, well, that's selfish. And nobody wants to be selfish. Selfish is this unpleasant word, like, oh, you don't want to be selfish. You don't want to do selfish things for yourself. That's bad. And they think they're being somehow noble by being more and more and more selfless. And, there's this value our society puts to selfless behavior, but it has to be genuinely selfless. And if it's selflessness with the hopes of gaining something, or unhealthy selflessness in some other way, is it really good? Or is it just the appearance of being good without the genuine, the genuine spirit of being good moving it? It's not beneficial if it's not genuine, and that's the problem. Making it difficult for others to give to them prevents nice guys from getting their needs met. Though most nice guys have a difficult time grasping this concept, they are terrified of getting what they really want and will go to extreme measures to make sure they don't. A good illustration of this dynamic is the way nice guys commonly try to get their sexual needs met. Many of the nice guys I've worked with have expressed a heightened interest in sex, yet they frequently feel frustrated in their attempts to get these needs met. This is usually because their actions pretty much guarantee that they won't get what they believe they want. Yeah, like, think about $500 guy. He definitely was not getting laid. And he wasn't getting laid because apparently every single nice thing he'd ever done for me was just so that he could get laid. And I know a lot of guys in the comments are always going, well, that's what all guys do. That's what men do when they interact with women. They're just basically saying, I want to get laid. Women are actually looking for somebody who wants their company, wants to be around them, wants to spend time with them, actually likes them as people. I know that's an old cliche, but that's kind of what women want when they seek out male companionship. Not all women, obviously. There are some women who are just out for free meals. But ideally, in a partner, you want something more than just sex. At least if you're being smart about it. Because you're going to spend, theoretically, when you get married, you spend the rest of your life with that person, or at least the rest of their life. If you're just after the sex, what are you going to do when you're old and wrinkly? Like, you have to have more substance than that. Using covert contracts prevents nice guys from getting their needs met. This is something that is kind of cliched with nice guys and sex. I think that's the reason a lot of nice guy memes are out there in the world, and there's a lot of people making fun of nice guys. One of the interesting things about this book, and one of the kind of mind-blowing things about this book for me, is that it's so sympathetic to nice guys because the author himself has struggled with these problems. It's not a perspective that I've seen in the past. Usually people are just coping with the presence of nice guys or the intrusion of nice guys into their lives, and the covert contracts, the things that people expect from them, and they're trying to find a humorous spin on it and kind of making fun of these guys because it's like, can you believe this guy thought I would prostitute myself for $500 worth of hamburgers? And it wasn't even a full 500, so, less than half of 500, so less than $250 worth of hamburgers. Like, seriously, how cheap do you think I am? Don't answer that. Don't answer that. I know you guys are thinking it. I know you guys are. Like, obviously you guys think I'm cheap, but back in the world of reality, I'm not that cheap. And so really these covert contracts, a lot of the actions that nice guys take that are stereotypical, unhealthy nice guy behaviors, they just pull him further and further away from his goals, and he's not able to achieve the things that he wants in life or get the things that he wants and needs in life, which, those things are important too. Caring versus caretaking. Though nice guys see everything they do for others as loving, caretaking has very little to do with caring. Nice guys caretake for a number of reasons, none of them having anything to do with love. For them, even the most innocuous and subtle act often has some string attached. And that's the thing that separates genuine, nice people that you meet, just nice people in the world, from the nice guy. The nice guy isn't being nice for the sake of being nice. He has an agenda. He has a plan. He's trying to get something out of you. And people don't like that. They don't like feeling manipulated. They don't like feeling used. And so this is important to know, because if you are one of these nice guys, and just because you're a nice person doesn't mean you're a nice guy. So it's kind of good to read the book and try to really spend some time thinking about what he's saying. If you suspect that this is a problem you have. You might not be the most agreeable of people, so this might not be a problem. But if you suspect that you're one of these nice guys, read the book and think about it, genuinely think about it, because you might be under the impression that you are a really nice person, a really giving person, a really caring person, and you might not be noticing these little strings attached to everything you do, these little small manipulations that you're putting out into the world that other people are going to pick up on, and they are going to be driven away from you because of this, unless they're terribly unhealthy, like terribly needy people, terribly a lot of nice guys, it seems, are drawn to people who are not necessarily good for them or healthy for them, where they can caretake and they can give, but they're not necessarily going to get what they want or get their needs met, because they're not entering into these relationships really looking to have their needs met, even though they secretly want to have their needs met. It's a really messy kind of situation to get into. It's not good. Doesn't work. It does not work. Rather than helping nice guys meet their needs, covert contracts and caretaking only lead to frustration and resentment. When this frustration and resentment builds long enough, it often spills out in some not so pretty ways. This is something that I have not really encountered. I don't know if my experience with $500 guy had any of that in it, where he eventually got so frustrated that he started acting out. He did call me up and expect me to give him a ride in, like, at 1 a.m. in the morning back to his home, which was way, way far away. And I did it because I was trying to be a nice person. Like, he had given me all those free meals and everything, and apparently he felt like I owed him something, and it was like, okay, whatever, I'm definitely not giving you sex, but I will give you a ride, because that's what people do for one another. Like, I don't drink, so I don't really know, but this is something. Maybe that was him trying to get something out of me, because he spent the entire ride to his home demanding that I turn the car around and take him back to my apartment, which was not going to happen. I don't know if that was it. I don't think that was really it. This is something different. In fact, my wife refers to these episodes as victim pukes. Sometimes the puking will resemble a child's temper tantrum. Sometimes the victim puke will take a more passive-aggressive form, in which the nice guy will have an affair or act out in some hidden way. All the while, the person doing the puking will feel justified because of the many ways he has been victimized. These victim pukes are one of the primary reasons nice guys aren't always so nice. He feels used. And this is something that I've seen again and again in the comments, and that I always kind of wonder about a little bit. $500 guy kept on buying me meals. He definitely did not buy me $500 worth of meals, or at least not $500 specifically on me. I'm pretty sure he was counting all his meals that he bought too, plus all the tips he gave the waitresses, possibly the gas that he was using to get to my town so that he could buy me the meals in the first place. It was not that much. But he was doing all this with the end goal of having sex with me. And he felt entitled to that sex. He felt like he had earned that sex by spending all this money on me that he never discussed spending on me or anything like that. And then when I told him no, he was offended. He felt victimized. He felt used. And that's one of the things that I've seen that's always kind of interesting to me. Like, nobody in the comments section seems remotely offended in any way that a guy might think he can just buy a girl, like, for $250 worth of hamburgers or whatever. Nobody seems to have a problem with the fact that you could just walk up to a random woman and say, hey, here's $250, now sleep with me. Nobody seems to have a problem with that. But what they do have a problem with, and this is always entertaining and interesting to me, is the idea that I let him spend money on me, which, I didn't think about it at the time. It didn't seem like I offered to pay, but, whatever. People are far more offended that I would let a man spend money on me. Some men get weird about spending money on dinner. Just let me say, really weird about it. And then not give him the sex that he wanted. And that's interesting to me. I have thought many times, and this isn't always the most charitable thought of mine, I've thought that a lot of the time, people aren't happy in the sexual game unless they're winning. So if you're talking to a guy and he's not getting sex out of you, he's frustrated and he feels used. If you're friends with a guy and he's not getting sex out of you, he feels frustrated and he feels used. If you're interacting with a guy in any way and you cut him off the moment you realize he's in any way interested in sex with you, well, then you're a bad person. Any time in my entire sexual history when I have turned a man down for sex, no matter how innocent our interactions were, no matter how brief our interactions were, no matter how non-sexual our interactions were, it's always me as the bad guy because I didn't let them have sex. And sometimes I look at it and I think sometimes, and again, this is not a most charitable thought I've ever had, but sometimes I think that some men, not all men, but some men, are only ever satisfied with a woman's behavior if she's giving them sex. And that's not something that I'm inclined to do, seeing as how, as an exotic dancer, just about every man I met wanted to have sex with me, and I wasn't going to give it out to everyone. That wasn't my goal, that wasn't my prerogative. I wasn't going to hand out sex to every single person who wanted sex from me. And I joked about it with a lot of customers. I was like, oh, if I had sex with everybody who asked me for sex, the CDC would have quarantined me a long time ago. So that's not going to happen tonight. I try to be nice about it, but there's just no way that I'm going to have sex with every single person who wants to have sex with me. Maybe that's just because I was in a very sexualized job. But I think a lot of young women, especially pretty young women, have to deal with that, where it's like everybody wants to have sex with them. Not everybody, but a lot of people want to have sex with them. And if they say no, all of a sudden they're the bad guy because they said no to sex. Like, you can't win. I want to point that out. There are many cases in which if you are a woman and you are sexually attractive and you don't want to have sex with the entire football team, you can't win. like there is some truth to the whole you're either a slut or an ice queen kind of dichotomy, where there's just you can't win. You're either one or the other, but either way you're screwed. There is no nice solution. Luckily I finally just got married, and that sort of solved the entire problem because, I'll give him sex anytime, but I get to say no to everybody else, which, I kind of like. It makes my life easy. I have a pre-formed socially acknowledged reason to just say absolutely not to anybody who asks me from here on out, except for my husband, who, that's not a problem. I actually want to have sex with him. As far as victim pukes go, this is a problem. This is one of the reasons that being a nice guy isn't a good thing. I mean, it's not nice to have a victim puke where you feel offended and you feel justified in acting out or misbehaving because, well, you've given so much to the other person. That's not healthy. But also, if you're having like children's kind of temper tantrums, if you're acting out, if you feel justified in misbehaving, if you're overly emotional. And, I mean, this guy, Dr. Glover, in his book, at the very forward, he mentions that he divorced the wife that he was married to when he wrote this book. They didn't last for very long after this book came out. That's because women lose respect for men who aren't in control of their emotions. Women lose respect for men who aren't in control of their selves. And things like victim pukes, acting out, having a temper tantrum, things like that, it's a huge turnoff for women, because if you're not in charge of you, then how can I expect you to be in charge of us? And women want men to be the ones who are in charge, generally speaking, with very, very few exceptions. If a man can't control himself, and I know this isn't fair, like this totally isn't fair, because women aren't in control of their emotions. I'm, obviously I'm on the hormone roller coaster. I had my miscarriage. God, has it been a week now? Week, 2 weeks, something like that, week and a half, that long ago. I had miscarriage. So my hormones have been going up and down and up and down, and I've been like passing out on the couch and just sleeping all day. Like, that's what I did today. I sent the kids over to the grandmother's. Thank God she was willing to watch them, and I fell asleep on the couch. Like, I wanted to do productive stuff today, and instead I just fell asleep because I was really tired. Women aren't in control of their emotions a lot of the time, and part of that is hormones, and I think part of it is societal expectation that women just shouldn't have to control their emotions, which is really unfortunate. We're capable of controlling our emotions, but we're also subject to a lot of hormonal ebbs and flows, which can really mess with our self-control when it comes to our emotions, and so it makes it extremely difficult sometimes. Also, good emotional self-control is a very strong indicator of a strong sense of self, a strong sense of control over the self. And women do very much want a man who's in control of himself. We want somebody who knows who he is, knows what he wants, and knows how to be himself. Victim pukes, as this book describes them, very unattractive. If we see you doing this, we will lose respect for you. And so one of the comments, I think, was talking about how, these books that are asking men to improve themselves, these self-help books, self-improvement books, it's like, it's just pushing the blame onto men who are sexually unsuccessful and telling them that they need to change themselves, they need to do something different, and putting all the blame for their sexual lack of success upon them. In this case, this is a married man talking about his own marriage and other men's marriages, other men's relationships, where these men are sexually successful, they've gained a partner, but their own personal problems are so tumultuous that they're endangering the stability of their relationship. And that's not good. And if you can fix that, fix it. You'll be happier, your partner will be happier, your relationship will be more stable. Fix these problems. If they come from you, then, fix them. If they come from elsewhere, well, you can't really control that. But if you do have problems, control what's within your control. And the thing that's immediately within your control always is you. And so if there's anything about you that you can exercise control over, take control of that part, and it will help you. I tell nice guys, no one was put on this planet to meet your needs, except their parents, and their job is done. I also remind them that they weren't put on this planet to meet anyone else's needs, except those of their children. I think that's interesting because it goes back to this whole caretaking that he's described earlier in the chapter. I'm not familiar with caretaking, so I kind of glossed over it. I don't recognize caretaking. I don't necessarily understand caretaking. He lists the differences between caring and caretaking behaviors. I kind of get it, but I don't get it because I've never seen it in my own life. I've never seen it firsthand. So it's something that's been described to me that I don't have a clear, strong understanding of. But it kind of goes back to this idea of selflessness. These guys who think they're being nice, they think they're being selfless, they're giving and giving and giving. They still want to get something in return, and they expect that they should be entitled to get something in return if they keep building up this credit with other people. But then they also somewhat feel that they owe other people. It's not just that they're being selfish people. They actually have, problems relating to the world around them. That's what being a nice guy, as Dr. Clover describes it, is. It's a certain degree of warping in your interaction with the entire world. It's a blurring of how the world is properly aligned. So, you are doing things that are not nice, like giving so that you can get stuff back, without even really realizing it, without even thinking about it, or possibly even thinking that that's what everybody does. But you're also feeling obligated to give things to people that they don't deserve from you. They don't need that from you. You're not responsible for other people's problems. You're responsible for yourself. And so you have to take care of yourself, and you have to understand yourself, and you have to be in control of yourself. You have to be honest with yourself, which is not always fun. But if you do that, you become a more mature, more attractive, more healthy male, or just a more healthy person. I don't think any women are watching these videos, but every once in a while, weird things happen. Hello, ladies. If you are working on yourself and controlling yourself and learning who you are, that's what you do have control over. You don't have control over other people's mental illnesses, their inability to make good decisions, their drug addictions. When I was dating the alcoholic, I've mentioned a few stories about him. He was one of the only real relationships that I had before I met my husband. He loved booze more than he was ever going to love me. And I knew that. Like right even at the beginning, I knew he loved his alcohol a hell of a lot more than he was ever going to love me. And so I tried to help him out. I tried to be positive and encouraging, and I even went to an AA meeting at one point to just ask them for any tips or advice that they could give for me to, take into my interactions with my alcoholic boyfriend. And they told me to threaten to leave him if he didn't give up the alcohol, and that was going to set him straight. And I just looked at them like, you guys realize that he loves his drink a hell of a lot more than he's ever going to love me. Like, he doesn't care about me nearly as much as he cares about that bottle in his hand. And they told me that I was an enabler, and if I wasn't willing to do that, then I was just another person in his life that was enabling his alcoholic behavior. And I was like, okay, so you don't have anything helpful to say then. Okay, thank you. And I left. I realized there was nothing I could do to help him. And I didn't hold myself responsible for his alcoholic behaviors. When I did eventually leave, it was because I had a better place to go to. I was monkey branching off. And I didn't really feel bad about it because he was cheating on me. And, he had other things going on in his life, and he never really cared about me all that much. Or at least he gave a very, very strong impression that he never cared about me all that much. And it wasn't my job to save him. It wasn't my job to rescue him from his alcoholism or the child abuse that he had suffered that had driven him to alcoholism or any of the other fucked up shit that had happened in his life. I could be there. I could be as much of a friend as I could be. I could try to be supportive, but I couldn't fix him, and I wasn't going to try to fix him or to change him or to rescue him. That was not my job. And that's a really hard thing sometimes if you care about somebody, genuinely care about somebody, to realize that you cannot save them, you cannot save the world, you can't save people. Sometimes you can't even save yourself. The best you can do is be the strongest person you can be present, be in charge of your own self and in charge of your own needs, and then try to be a healthy but kind force in other people's lives. That's probably not describing it very well, but this nice guy need to, give and give and give and give and hopefully get a little bit back. It doesn't work. It's not a healthy system. It's much better to be in control of your own needs and wants and to answer your own needs and wants and be responsible for your own needs and wants and try to be a positive influence in other people's lives, but not responsible for other people's lives. You got to have that balance in your life. You've got to make that realization, and I'm sure it's not an easy realization to make. Anyway, that's chapter 4. I'm looking forward to reading chapter 5. I haven't read it yet, so that's what I'm going to be doing this week. And I will talk to you guys later.